And this is how Jackson actually ended up on life support on Christmas Day. Hello, it's me again, Saint Nick, and we are here to do part 2, as I remembered we were actually doing a part 2. So here is part 2 to when Jackson ended up in the hospital. And this is how Jackson spent all of Christmas in the hospital. Ducky did remind me though, before we start this story, make sure you do smash that like button, subscribe with those notification bell on. He has informed me he does make some quality content every single day, you don't want to miss out. And make sure you watch the whole video and leave me a comment if you've ever had an experience like this. Let's get on with the story. So going back 12 years, and if you haven't watched part 1 by the way, that was uploaded yesterday, definitely go watch that before this one as I won't be recapping any of yesterday's video. We are jumping straight into it. So if you haven't watched part 1, it's in the description of the video or in the top comments, go and watch that first. If not that, this video just won't make sense. So Jackson is literally on the way to the hospital. Like I said, he had been collapsed, he was on the floor, he had a seizure, and now is being rushed in the back of an ambulance to the hospital. And this is where things get very disturbing. So on Christmas, there is obviously barely any staff inside of a hospital because there is no one sad enough to work on Christmas Day. Unfortunately, those unlucky people that actually do have to work on Christmas Day are obviously saviors to many people, but they have no families or no life. Another word for that is sad motherfucker. So after an intense ambulance drive all the way to the hospital, which was around about 10 minutes away from Jackson's house, he is unloaded onto a hospital bed and ran down a corridor in the hospital, like on one of those actual hospital films, you know, like Scrubs or A&E. Yes, Santa does love these programs. They are some funny programs. Definitely go check them out. Yes, Santa is allowed to watch TV. Don't call me a sad Jesus, just because we don't all play Fortnite, James. How about you go ask your mum for more V-Bucks for Christmas? So Jackson is rushing down the hospital. His mum and his dad have both travelled in the back of the ambulance together and they are freaking out themselves. They get rushed down to a hospital bed, which a doctor that is just, thank God, working on Christmas Day is there. So this man runs hundreds of tests on Jackson, you know, scanners, checking his heart rate, his blood flow, everything like that. But there was one thing that he didn't actually do and couldn't do until Jackson woke up from his, you know, seizure, faint, concussion sort of thing. And that was a blood test. And there is one thing you need to know about Jackson. He's a He is the worst person you will ever see with needles. Every single time he has a blood test or an injection, he faints. He collapses and has a seizure. And this is actually where he found out that happened. I know he's a So after around about an hour of being in the hospital, Jackson finally decides to wake up from his, you know, unconscious state. If you ask me, I think the lazy was just sleeping. So he wakes up and then the doctor says that he has to have a blood test. And Jackson was thinking he's never had a blood test before, so he did not know that he was bad with injections at this point. So rather quite excitedly, Jackson decides to say yes and have this amazing blood test to him. His dad does give a lot of blood to charity, which is why Jackson thought it was such a great thing to have. Oh, how he was wrong after about 10 minutes. So they rush Jackson over to the blood test center and then they make him have the blood test. He sat in the chair, really excited, very welcoming of the fact that he was about to have a blood test. And this is where he would find out it would ruin his life. For anyone that is squirmish now, please close your ears. The needle goes in and instantly, and I mean 0 to 60 in 0 seconds instantly, he faints. Passes out like that song, Passed Out, and then starts fitting around like a salmon out of water. It was actually very funny. So he starts passing out, his mum runs in screaming because he is just out of it. He is absolutely, it's insane actually. I wish I had a video recording of this, but unfortunately Santa is an Android user, so I obviously have the film quality of a toaster oven. Santa is not allowed iPhone. Jackson, after seizuring and fainting, is rushed over to the A&E clinic, where he's actually put in the overnight stay part of A&E, and they run a million more tests on Jackson, finding out what was wrong with him. At this point in time, Jackson was a very athletic and fit boy. He had done many training sessions and was actually into swimming at this point in time, so was doing a lot of that. No, he wasn't Tom Daly. So whilst they're doing the test, they find out a very disturbing truth, and that is that Jackson's heartbeat at 7 years old is so low that it almost is like he is dying. After finding this out and realizing and thinking that Jackson was actually slipping away from them, they rush him over to the life support machines and get him hooked up right away, where Jackson has to stay overnight inside the hospital where they can monitor him and on a life support machine just in case he goes below, 0 beats per minute, which would mean the long beep. After a whole day of being inside of the hospital, hooked up to this machine and obviously spending overnight in the hospital, unable to have a nice Christmas dinner, ruining the whole of his family's plans for having family over, cooking this lovely turkey and having a great time. Yes, the little bitch did ruin all of that by having a stupid little seizure because of a needle. They realize they are not getting home and they stay over with Jackson all night. So the next day, them finding out that he was actually just being a giant wimp. About midday on Boxing Day, they release him from the hospital and just say that he has a huge phobia of needles. It was rather quite embarrassing for Jackson. And this is actually where the tale concludes. Jackson then spent a normal Boxing Day, but did unfortunately, and is still left to this day, scarred for life by this story and the fact that his 7th Christmas was the worst it could possibly be, and that he ended up on life support because of an injection, a little. Thank you every single person for watching these last 2 parts. I hope you did enjoy. I have become very bored of doing this whole YouTube situation, so I shall be giving the channel back to Ducky. Thank you everyone for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy. It's been your boy Saint Nick. Peace out.